The next step in this is mounting the amplifier in place up underneath the driver's seat. This amplifier is almost perfect for this location. Let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at some of the specs for this amplifier we're gonna be putting in. This amplifier is 50 watts by 4 and 300 by 1 at 4 ohms, 75 watts by 4 and 150 watts by 1 at 2 ohms. We're gonna run this a combination of 4 ohm and 2 ohm. We have Dyno, the little brother of this, and we got a ton of power out of it, so we're not worried about how much power this actually puts out. It puts out a ton. Let's take a closer look at the amplifier itself. Starting with the input side, it has your 6 RCA inputs. A is front, B is rear, and sub. Over on your adjustments, it is broken into your high pass crossover for both A and B, adjustable between 50 and 200 hertz with an on-off switch for both channels. Next up is your sub channel, adjustable between the same 50 to 200 hertz. Next to that is your bass boost, 0 to 12 dB at 40 hertz. Gain control for all 3 channels is next. It is 5 to 0.2 volts of input, and your sub, we have a switch here for dedicated sub RCA input or a combination of A/B to give you non-fader select. On the other side of the amplifier, it has the forked style screw down terminals, your power remote. For speakers, it goes positive, negative, negative, positive, left being first, right being second, A on top, B on bottom. Subwoofer are the last 2 located here. Negative sub is this bottom, positive sub is the top. There's 4 Allen screws to remove these black pieces so that you can screw it into place and attach your connectors to it. There just so happens to be enough room for the amplifier to sit in this nice little tucked in area. So I've taken some measurements, and my plan is to have it go all the way up underneath this bracket here, all the way forward, over, and then up over this air conditioning hump, because I need to face the RCAs this way, and my power wire will be out the back. Now you won't see most of the power wire because you can't see, but right here it actually comes down about 2.5 inches. So you won't have to worry about anybody kicking this. The amplifier is going to sit well below where the back seat is. My RCAs will come out and go up into the dash, and my power wire and everything else will come and go up along here. This side panel shields the whole amplifier, so really you're not even going to know it's there. There's a line in the carpet right here where this sits on, so everything I'm designing will be on the other side of that. This is this giant area that will allow us to get those RCAs up into behind the dash. Fernando seems to think that a 6-foot RCA will be long enough, and I agree with him. But I have my measurements. I need a 12.25 by 16.5 inch sheet in order for this to work. And because it's underneath the seat, I'm gonna use 1/4 inch, but I could use blown PVC Centra and or ABS. I'm leaning towards the PVC. And I think I see on the saw right there, the perfect shape size. With my mount trimmed down to the size, the 16.5 by 12.25, I draw my diagram backwards on it. So this is actually the back. That way when I flip it over, I don't have any of the marks that I've just drawn on it. I'm gonna remove this corner here, this here, this here. There'll be a bend here, and then this will go into the car. We'll figure out where our hole needs to be, and we'll drill it in place. Bend it, we just use our torch here, heat it up enough to where it'll bend. Want to get a nice 90 in here. I can push it all the way down flat with the 2 cut marks we made. Give it a couple minutes to just cool. If you want to put a wet rag on it to cool it down faster, go right ahead. This stuff you can typically feel with your finger. If it's squishy, it's not ready. You do have some time when working with this, so if you need to bend something here and then take it into the car, yeah, you can work with it. It does stay pretty hot for a decent amount of time. So that gives us that bend there. I need to find out where that is. It measured as 1 inch, but I'm not positive of that. I'll hop in and just measure it real quick in the car. So I have my mark here. All right, we got it nice and soft. Let's get it into the car and we'll just hold it in place. Now we just wait, give it a couple seconds. If you pull it, as it's cooling like this, you'll get a nice round edge. It won't be as 90, which is what we're doing because the carpet here is kind of rounded. This stuff does stretch a little bit. It's cool to the touch. Set the seat back down in place, and I can draw my hole in the back here. All right, that's the hole I want to make. And this is the rough. So I'm gonna drill this hole, I'm gonna sand it up a little bit, and I'll meet you guys at the top-down camera as we start to wire up this amplifier. When removing little winglets like this, if there's screws, always put them back into the amplifier. That way you don't lose them. Before I get started, I want to do some pre-check on the amplifier. We need to turn on my high-pass crossover just to right around where 80 hertz looks like it's supposed to be for the front and 100 for the rear. Front is the 6x9, it will play a little lower. Do the same for the sub. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to be close in this case. We can make them perfect later. Turn my gains all the way down. Make sure that my sub input switch is set for sub and not AB. That looks good. This is just a pre-check we do on the amplifier. That way when we're done, connect power to it. If we want to turn it on and listen to it, we know it's a safe thing to do. So the RCAs are going to come out of the front here and go along this side. My power wire needs to come along here and go up underneath the hood, and my speaker wire is going to come along this side to meet up with the RCAs to go forward. I have plenty of room underneath here to do what I need to do. This just needs to be big enough to fit speed wire. Speed wire is about the size of a 4 gauge, and I happen to have 4 gauge right here ready to go. It fits. First step will be to screw the amplifier down into place. There's little tiny nubs on the bottom here. I'm going to sand those down. Now it's nice and flat. When wiring up an amplifier, I like to take it in segments: power, output, input, subwoofer wire, bass knob, all of those things. And in this case, we are going to start with power, which is located here and has to come along this side of the amplifier. For that, we have some Stinger 4 gauge power wire. It is already braided up with a fork terminal on the end. If you have the pleasure of doing an amplifier that has screw down terminals like this, whatever you do, do not use a drill to tighten up these wires. That is a big no-no. Use a screwdriver. And make sure you get them nice and tight. The next step is to get the wire fastened to our board here and along the side. My first 2 zip ties in to hold this in place. Next, I need to move it along that, and for that, I'm going to use my wire ruler. I'm going to be using the 8-inch zip ties, which means I need a 5/32 drill bit. And for this, I want to get as close to this amplifier as possible. On the wire ruler, it has little dash marks next to the holes, so that allows you to line up and use those. So one of the nice things about the wire ruler is because it has those dash marks. As you can see here, we were able to get right up next to that amplifier, not waste any space. I have exactly the amount of room I need, keeps it nice and clean. Next is just getting all those zip ties in place. And there we go, zip tied up nice in place. All the zip ties go in the same direction. If you're gonna do it, be picky about it. This wire comes straight into this area here, which is where it's gonna go off into the car. Next is the RCA. On the tips of the RCAs, I've added some color-coded heat shrink: green, purple, gray, and white. The Stinger RCAs have this little flag on the end. This is for source unit. They have a drain wire that's twisted into this to move the noise away from the amplifier. That is why they have that on there. And the reason why I'm doing the RCAs next is so that I can get the proper length of my speed wire, because it's not going to be any longer than this. And if I just guess, I could waste a bunch of wire. Doing the RCAs, this allows me to know exactly how long I need it to be. Now these are going to just basically turn along through here. I don't need a zip tie on this, but I am going to put one here to lock these in place so that they don't accidentally get pulled. I'm just putting the RCA in loosely. The reason for that is to line these RCAs up properly, stack them. I need to have a little bit of playroom so if I need to pull them out, I can. And then once I have them all flat, pull my zip tie tight. With that done, I need to shield these. I don't want them just chilling out like this up underneath there. None of the factory wiring is like that. I want to make sure mine are the same. Since I've already got them flat, take my Tessa tape and twist it around, keeping these nice and tightly stacked on top of one another so that this doesn't get all balled up and twisted around. And I'll do that all the way down the RCA.